July 12th, 2025. At exactly 12:37 p.m. This is a Leopard 1A5. Almost 45 years old, this main battle tank was about to enter a very challenging 1.5-hour operation. Targets had been set for these predators. However, the Leopards faced a very difficult task. After all, no Leopard had ever fired directly at Russian headquarters from a distance of 70 meters. After a 20-kilometer drive, they had to penetrate the heart of enemy lines, with enemy artillery fire making the mission nearly impossible during the retreat. The Ukrainian armored unit equipped with Leopard 1A5 tanks had completed preparations for an impossible mission that would last approximately 1.5 hours. The Leopards had to infiltrate 3 Russian infantry headquarters and fortified complexes located in a mixed forest line east of Pidubny in the Donetsk region. These were also used as depots. These structures served as the forward logistics hub for the Russian 42nd Motorized Rifle Brigade. Additionally, according to intelligence reports from that day, Strela 10 air defense platforms and EW and radar systems had been temporarily deployed in the area. Therefore, the Ukrainian forces were tasked with carrying out not just a show of force, but a deliberate covert elimination mission. 2 Ukrainian Leopard 1A5 tanks would play a role in this mission. This was because other options had a high probability of success for the Russian defense. The tanks would advance to a certain point and destroy the Russian headquarters. But for the operation and retreat to be successful, every shot had to hit its target, and every enemy shot had to be dodged. Before we start, to support us and help block Russian bots' attack, please subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and turn on notifications. As of 11:30 a.m., the systems inside the Leopards had passed all sensor control sequences. The 830 horsepower MTU MB 833 diesel engine had not yet been started, but the electronic warfare module inside the Leopard 1A5 tanks had already begun emitting a static electromagnetic curtain to prevent enemy eavesdropping. The operation began at noon. The Operational Reconnaissance Unit of Ukraine's 93rd Brigade launched a fixed-wing Phoenix kamikaze reconnaissance UAV. The aim was to locate Russian headquarters in Pidubny and facilitate the work of the Leopard tanks. With a flight range of 4.5 hours, this system was capable of target recognition based on heat contrast at night. The Phoenix detected heat signatures in a bunker using a FLIR-based thermal imager. A total of 16 thermal signatures were detected across 3 compartments. Additionally, significant IR leaks indicating the presence of fuel and ammunition in a side compartment were recorded. Targets for the Leopards were gradually becoming clear. A death corridor was forming. 2 Leopard 1A5 tanks deployed to the area at the time of detection were equipped with modernized electronic fire control systems. These systems replaced the optical aiming devices from the 1980s, providing precise targeting through thermal imaging and laser telemetry. The tanks were equipped with Rheinmetall-made 105mm L7A3 smoothbore guns. The crew carried 42 rounds of ammunition, each weighing 21 kilograms. Of these, 12 were Hesh, 6 were Heat T, continuously guided, and 10 were Sabot rounds. The ammunition loaded according to the mission profile included 4 Hesh, high-explosive squash head, 2 Heat, high-explosive anti-tank, and 2 M456 smoke rounds. Now it was the tank commander's turn. The commanders accessed the digital ballistic calculator through the L2 stabilizer-equipped optical system. This allowed all wind, barometric pressure, and distance data to be entered into the system. The timing for the first shot was then planned. Conditions were being created for forest road infiltration and maneuvering. The Leopard tanks advanced through the forest as quietly as possible on the soft ground. Nevertheless, to provide sound masking, the advanced reconnaissance team entered the area from 2 kilometers away. This team carried infantry-class URC-4 jammers. This prevented any radio signals, GPS tracking, or Russian anti-drone systems from being triggered along the tank's route. The route used for the tank's advance was old Soviet tractor roads, but Russian troops had laid PMN-2 and TM-62 anti-personnel and anti-tank mines on some of these roads. To prevent this, each Leopard was preceded by an MRAP, mine-resistant, ambush-protected, armored vehicle equipped with telescopic IR scanners. The vehicle analyzed temperature anomalies at a depth of 30 centimeters to manage temporary stops. At around 12:30 p.m., the Leopard tanks were positioned 300 meters from the Pidubny line. Finally, even the target compass pointed to 3 concrete buildings side by side. and mention Kovakta pockets. On the west wing, there were two buildings side by side. On the east wing, there was an ammunition depot. At this time, information from the command center indicated that a Strela 10 short-range air defense system was located approximately 80 meters to the left of the target trench. This system had a range of 4 kilometers and was capable of targeting both drones and low-flying helicopters. Therefore, air support or rotation drones would not be used during the attack. The priority was to detect the thermal signature without approaching the target at a right angle, but the reconnaissance drones had not detected any enemy equipment that could damage the Leopards. At that moment, the commander of the advanced Leopard took the initiative. The enemy had no ground defenses. Radar signals and radios were being jammed. This was a great opportunity for the tanks. The commander of the lead Leopard planned a show of force. He quickly drove north toward the Russian headquarters. When he reached the center between two buildings on the western flank, he stopped. The first shot was crucial. Our Alpha Granite gave the code, "Line Bravo 0 ready." This was the confirmation command triggering the loading of the first ammunition. The first shot was crucial. At 12:37, the lead Leopard targeted the central section of the bunker, where the infantry were located, 70 meters away. The ammunition was HESH, delayed fuse. This ammunition adhered to the target's outer surface upon impact, then detonated inward, increasing internal pressure and causing structural collapse. This effect was highly effective against reinforced concrete shelters. The 105mm HESH round reached the target in 1.5 seconds. A localized collapse occurred on the shelter roof. Immediately afterward, the second shot was fired at the central building to the west. A large explosion occurred. The Leopard moved quickly down the road and targeted another shelter 100 meters away while it was still moving, and one shot hit it. Then the second Leopard immediately joined the operation. It fired a sudden shot at the ammunition depot on the other side of the road. The first shot was fired at the front. The roof of the building and the control room collapsed. The tank retreated slightly and aimed its barrel at the rear of the building. It fired a Brimstone 2 heat round. The target was the fuel tank compartment of the shelter. Within seconds, a chain of explosions began. The initial flames reached 4 meters. Then the ammunition depot on the northwest side reacted and exploded. According to thermal camera images from the tanks, temperatures of approximately 1200 degrees were recorded. The second tank then fired another control shot at the center of the first building. The headquarters had been completely destroyed, but Russian troops managed to inform the central command of the raid using encrypted channels. Russian forward reconnaissance had detected the Leopard tanks and had already sent surveillance drones for target verification. The Leopards quickly began to retreat to a safe area, but 2 minutes after the explosion, PKM fire came from the Russian forward observation post in the north. The effective range of the PKM is 800 meters, but the front armor of the tanks had 70 millimeters of steel composite coating. In addition, the tanks dynamically changed their positions. In order to disrupt target selection, Brimstone 2 moved 25 meters to the west. Then, Russian forces launched a coordinated attack with 152mm artillery. The first attack was recorded as falling about 2 kilometers away. Immediately afterwards, the second artillery shot came. The shell fell in the middle of the two tanks. The third shot fell 10 meters to the right of the Leopard behind. The enemy's artillery accuracy was increasing. The two Leopards had to separate. However, they did not open up too much of a gap. Meanwhile, the Leopards had begun moving to escape the enemy artillery fire. Their first priority was to disrupt the targeting. They realized this during the second artillery shell. The third shell was about to hit the rear Leopard, prompting the tanks to activate their active laser countermeasure system. The Leopard tanks detected the signal transmitted via the LWS, laser warning system. Additionally, the Leopard 1A5s deployed Wegmann smoke grenade launchers, consisting of 6 launchers, to create a dense smoke screen that blocked infrared vision. With this measure in place, the tanks began to withdraw. The safe zone, designated as the withdrawal point, was reached. The time was nearly 12:45 p.m. The tanks maintained their passive signal jamming systems, which emit a steady infrared beam. According to the data obtained, the Russian complexes were completely destroyed. It is estimated that over 10 Russian units were eliminated. No hits were recorded on the 2 Leopard tanks deployed by Ukraine toward Pidubne. Additionally, no Ukrainian military personnel were injured during the operation. No system malfunctions occurred during the operation. Laser signal detection and countermeasure systems operated without issues. The operation was completed at 12:45 p.m. According to mission control notes, the target was assessed as 100% destroyed. This operation demonstrated that German-made Leopard 1A5 tanks still have strategic value in low-risk, high-impact missions when used with the right tactics. We can say that the Rheinmetall L7A3 105mm smoothbore guns worked wonders. Hesh, Heat, and Sabot rounds shattered Russian trenches. The 70mm front armor and LWS system allowed Leopard tanks to escape Russian attacks without sustaining damage. Wegman smoke systems and active laser jammers were among the elements that prevented Leopard tanks from sustaining damage and kept them hidden. The 830 horsepower diesel engine and a maximum speed of 65 kilometers per hour left Russian forces no opportunity to initiate counterfire. The EMES-18 thermal sight and digital ballistic computer ensured that the operations conducted by the Ukrainian armed forces proceeded smoothly and without issues. Now the Russians are concerned that the Ukrainian army will use other Western main battle tanks, especially Leopard tanks, to carry out incredible offensive operations in different parts of the front lines, for example in other settlements in Donetsk, in Luhansk, or on the Sumy-Kursk line. As we have seen, these tanks give Russian troops no chance. The Ukrainians have Western main battle tanks, such as the Challenger and M1 Abrams, that can have the same effect as the Leopard tanks. During the summer offensive, we will probably see these tanks in excessive numbers on the front lines. If two Leopard 1 tanks did this to Russian trenches in Donetsk, what do you think the deadly combination of Western main battle tanks in the Ukrainian army could do? Of course, the defensive measures taken by Russia in this regard are also critical. The Russian army has recently been unable to stop the Ukrainian advance in Donetsk. Factors such as the victory achieved by the Ukrainians in Andriivka and the Russian forces' inability to achieve their objectives in Pokrovsk are contributing to this. All of this is causing serious damage to Russia. They no longer have enough defense systems, tanks, or artillery. What remains is reminiscent of the Soviet era when faced with Western systems sent to Ukraine. The Russian trenches that collapsed during the latest frontline operation in Donetsk clearly illustrate this reality. If the Ukrainian side succeeds in exhausting and pressuring Russian forces in Donetsk and across the Donbass region through such operations, the overall course of the war will change significantly. This situation could even lead to a gradual reduction in Russian troops across a large part of the country. In other words, for silence to prevail, Ukrainian soldiers may need to endure continuous artillery fire and explosions for a certain period of time. Thank you for watching.